giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Art of Selling Travel Podcast. I'm so excited for this episode. I wanted to shake things up a little bit and tell you a little bit of a story of something that happened in my hometown, but also too, I'm going to share with you how it connects to business and why it is such an important element that I think nobody ever talks about. And that's complacency. So while I was working on the notes for this episode, I thought, you know what, just before I officially put myself out there, let's just go ahead and Google what complacency means. And I have to be honest, when I read the description, I'm like, okay, I was right. But then I was like, ooh, this is harsh. So this is what came out of the dictionary. Marked by self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. Now that one was the one that was like, whew. It was where it said unawareness that I was like, oh, there is a lot of lack of awareness of what's going on around us. A lot of a lack of awareness of what other people perceive about the messaging we put out, about the way that we're operating. I've actually encountered this a handful of times in my community in the last about 14 months. And the first one started off with a board that I actually sit president on. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but I'm going to say that there was a lawyer involved. And but all the way through, no matter how frustrating the whole process got, I kept repeating, this is a good thing. Now, do not get me wrong. In the thick of it, I would have rather been anywheres but I chose to look at it from, this is good. You know, our bylaws have not been updated since the organization was created in 1978. I was born in 1979. My personal bylaws have changed more than once. But it created opportunity because it shook off the complacency. It let us look at it and go, oh, wait, just because this is the way it's always been done doesn't mean that's the right way or the only way. And that there's very possibly another conversation that needs to take place. Something else that we need to be talking about, looking at. One of the things that I did with that organization for the very first time in all the years I've been there, I did a giant flip chart. Yes, if you've been around for a while, you know I love my giant flip charts. But I did a giant flip chart showing the budgets, the forecasts, where we've been, all of the things so that we could have in-depth conversations. Had we not had the situation that arose, we wouldn't have gotten to that point. And yet it was like, wow, okay. So that's why decisions are being made. But also too, I just think back to our most recent meeting when somebody was like, okay, can we get motion for this, this, this? And I said, you know what? We need to go back. We need to look at our budget because if this other thing needs fixed, we need to put the brakes on hard on where every penny is going. So when things get shaken up, in the moment, it can feel like the worst possible thing. But yet it might be setting you up for something better. So I really want to talk about the local fair in my town. So it just took place this past weekend, and about 15 weeks prior, an announcement came out on social media that the board of directors of our Chamber of Commerce was relocating it to the exhibition grounds. Now, here's the thing. On the surface, that looks like a good idea, but there's a history that's involved. And that history is the fact that this fair had been in town for 64 previous years. In fact, this year was the 65th anniversary. Now, it wasn't just a fair. It was actually called Jaywalkers because what happens is they shut down Main Street in our hometown and all the businesses come out. They put out booths, they sell off. This is a great way to liquidate inventory, old inventory. They put it on clearance. It's a lot of cash and carry. You buy, like, it's an entirely different shopping experience. And over the years, the rides have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So it really becomes this whole fair where people can come in, they can ride the midway, they can go shopping, they can go to the entertainment. There's so many things going on. Now, in our town, we are extremely lucky to be having a lot of commercial development taking place. And what this means is lots that have been vacant for years, where they've been able to set up rides or they've been able to use for parking, weren't available because we have brand new, beautiful commercial buildings coming in. This is a good thing for our city. But it meant that where they've done things, where they've just automatically parked things before, wasn't going to work. So our board, without consultation outside of the board to their members, made a unilateral decision to move outside of town to the exhibition grounds and completely reformat it. Now, the problem with this is that, one, this isn't a tourism board, it was the Chamber of Commerce. Two, they didn't have consultation or conversation with any of their members. And so, as you can imagine, things went haywire. See, in addition to liquidating old inventory, our local stores that participate bring in massive amounts of product that they're going to move that weekend. In fact, a lot of our local businesses have said what they make in that weekend is the equivalent to an entire month's worth of revenue. An entire month worth of revenue in one weekend. So instead of getting 12 months worth of revenue, they actually get 13 months in the year because of this event. And for a lot of them, they actually describe it as, this is the weekend, this is the event where our business becomes profitable. So as you can imagine, when this event got relocated off of our main street and quite a ways out of town, there was a lot of small town controversy, if you will. We had the families who were like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. There's going to be so many more rides. This will be fabulous. And the other people are like, are you sure? Because it sounds like the rides are going to be more expensive. You got this, that, the other. And then we have our business community that went, wait, what? Because now instead of being in front of their stores, they had to look at the fact of, are we going to add additional staff? Because now perhaps we're in 2 locations. We're not going to be disrupting the pattern of getting people to our downtown. Because see, a lot of people in our area don't necessarily shop on Main Street unless and until they're reminded why they should. And events like our Jaywalkers, that's exactly what it is that it does. It reminds people to come down and check it out. See, when you're in marketing, when you are trying to get those sales, you have to disrupt the pattern. The problem with complacency is sometimes you forget about disruptions. So we have to look at what it's going to take to disrupt the pattern to get clients from where they're at to where they are. Again, that's where you have things like social media. They disrupt the pattern. That's why you want to make sure that you have content and other such that's going to capture their attention. It's also why you want to make sure you're going where they are hanging out so that you can capture their attention by disrupting the pattern. See, otherwise people are just going to go back to where they were over and over and over again because it's the path of least resistance. But back to what I was saying. This decision was unilateral. It caused massive waves through the community. and truly, I would say, divided the community in ways it hadn't been before. And I will also say, simultaneously, brought the community together. Because now all of our downtown businesses, and actually a lot of our local businesses as a whole, not just the downtown, came together to say, whoa, 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 what's this about? And so I did not, well, technically my office is downtown. So I do fall within the downtown, but I'm not retail. I personally don't benefit from this. However, I am such a huge community supporter that I understand that my community benefits from events like this. And so I want to make sure, one, that I have a viable, strong, vital community to be a part of, but two, my house property value is also dependent on that vital, strong community as well. And so we all have to do our part to make sure our own communities are solid. So I listened to both sides because in so many ways, I really didn't have a horse in the race. And so I wanted to hear both sides. I definitely went in with an opinion. I went in with a strong opinion, but I also went in more of a neutral position than so many of those small businesses that were operating in that downtown core. See, the problem with the board is that they chose to see the problems. They lost the places they had always used. They lost things that they lost. I don't even know how the right way to say this is, but frankly, they lost sight of what the event was. They went for the short-sighted, not the long term. See, they didn't want to look for solutions. They wanted to look for that easy button. They wanted to do something because they're like, oh, well then boom, boom, we're done. Because we can check off this, all in one spot. And it's easier. See, the problem is when you lose sight of the vision for your business, the vision for your event, the vision for whatever it is you're doing, just like our Chamber of Commerce did, you lose sight of the prize. This is why in the Travel Advisor Success Studio, we have spent so much time in the kickoff month. We started just in May here, and we're about 6 weeks in now. And everything so far has been dedicated to understanding the overall business strategy. Because if you don't have the lens of the vision of what your business should look like, you make short-sighted decisions rather than things that are going to have a long-term sustainable impact. We have to look at what is the vision, and everything needs to be judged through that. See, when I went to the public meeting, I listened to what the business owners were saying. I listened to what the chamber was saying. I listened to all the conversations. And I fully admit, every time somebody spoke, I kind of took another step closer and closer and closer towards the microphone. And then I was standing up there and I heard, Glenda's going to say something now. And I thought, oh, okay, I guess we are. But when I stepped up there, I said, we have two problems that need to be addressed. One, there's a messaging problem. Because one of the things I hear is that you don't have enough volunteers, that you don't have enough of this, you don't have enough of that. I've never seen you ask for that. I've never seen you reach out and ask for help. I've never seen you reach out and say, I need volunteers. See, the problem is if we don't know what it is you need, we're not able to help fulfill that in the process. So if you're needing volunteers, we need to know that. If you're up against security issues, we need to know that. If you're up against logistics issues, we need to know that. Because you can't make silo decisions if there's not an opportunity for other people to give you more input? And two, the second issue, and I said, I think this is the biggest issue. What is the purpose? Because I had heard it was so that you could add more food trucks. My question became, what of our local food trucks are you not able to find space for? What, I've heard it so you can add more vendors. What of our local vendors could you not find space for? Because otherwise, if we're just making space for the sake of making space so that you as a chamber can make more money to help offset your programming by selling more booths, but in turn, we are loading money onto the back of trucks and driving it right out of town, then I ask again, what is the purpose? You know, this happens so much in business, in small businesses, in travel businesses, where we make a decision that feels good right in the moment, but has no connection to what the overall vision of what that business is. Make a decision because it makes life easier right in that second. I'm not going to charge fees because then I'm the same as anybody else, except are you? Are you the same price as somebody who's cheaper online? Are you in a race to the bottom that you're never going to win because there will always be somebody cheaper? Are you doing it because it feels easier? Or are you doing it because it's the right decision for the vision you want? See, the problem is I talk with travel advisors and say, oh, no, I can't ever charge fees. My clients won't even pay for this. And it's all about the cheap. So when we go through and we break down the conversations that they're having, I'm like, well, that's because you're telling them it's too much. You're the one that's setting that. When we look at just, I can't charge fees, or I can't do this, or I can't sell that, or my clients would never buy, we're the ones that established that this isn't the right option, that this isn't the right thing for them. See, when we don't look at the vision, we shut out all the opportunity. Now, one of the things that I will never forget is standing outside of that office after that public meeting. And some of the business owners saying, well, then fine, we'll just do it on a regular weekend. Because that was the other thing. A couple months prior to that, they had to change to a different weekend to accommodate the amusement company. And they're like, we'll do it on our own. We won't have rides. Well, and I said, whoa. Let's not be ringing bells we can never unring. See, our community still wants that. And whether it's this or that, you have to understand there is an optics that's bigger than yourself. And when somebody else is in charge of the narrative, that might just be one of those bells that you ring that you can never unring. Optics don't have a straight line between what you're saying and thinking and how other people perceive it. That's why messaging is so absolutely important. It needs to be a process of repetition. See, in adversity, in the moment, is hard. And I mean hard. Change is hard. If you got the Canva glow up, you probably know what I'm talking about. That first couple of days of trying to figure out Canva glow up, yeah, that was hard. Trying to figure out where all of the different features ran off to, that was such a pain in the But adversity, challenges, shaking up complacency creates so much opportunity. And sometimes we don't even know what that opportunity is until after everything settles. See, opportunity makes things possible that you didn't even put on your list. in the end, the organizations were able to come together, and our Jaywalkers was still held downtown. And I think it was probably the very best one yet. See, here's the thing. We found a new place to put big rides. They had more rides this year than any other time. And yet it felt like there was so much more room because of the layout. They used parking lots they had never used before. They used setups that hadn't been done before. On the Rant and Rave Facebook groups, people were raving about how awesome the layout was. I'm not going to lie, that first day that I was on Main Street, I was walking up and thinking, well, this doesn't feel like there's as many people here. Then I went to where the rides were and I'm like, oh, that's where all the teenagers are. That's what's happening. See, Main Street was filled with the shoppers and the families and the giant parking lot up to the north. That's where all the teenagers were. We had food trucks spread all the way throughout. We had so much going on. We had terrible weather, like terrible weather. Like as in it froze, literally hit zero. People lost parts of their gardens during this event. But it was so much, there was so much more space and people were so relaxed in enjoying it. Remember how I said sometimes opportunities come that you didn't even know were on your list? Well, here's the thing. This was the first year it was on a different weekend, the first time in 65 years. It was a weekend later than it should have been. The irony, the Saturday of the weekend it had always been, they had to close Main Street because it had a freaking sinkhole. Like, what are the chances a sinkhole developed Saturday afternoon of the weekend it should have been? That would have decimated. They would have had to pull everything off of Main Street and all the side roads. Like, what is the likelihood of that having happened? See, complacency is another word for comfort, security. It's people saying, but that's the way it's always been done. But I don't have time for that. No, I mean, that just, it'll never work for me. Complacency is also the chokehold on your business. It's what creates the ruts in your business that you just can't move out of. I have a coach that always says, what got you here won't get you there. And yet complacency is all that got us here. If we just keep repeating what we've been doing, well, then we're going to get the same results. It's not going to move on. It's not going to get any better because that's what it is. Complacency is also that thing that prevents you from continuing up the hill. And eventually your brakes are going to burn out. And while everybody else is climbing up the hill, you're going to start to roll backwards. What you've done has been good enough to get you to today. It's not enough to get you to tomorrow or the next day or 6 months from now or a year from now. What are you going to change? What opportunity are you going to consider that might get you to where you're headed? Have you built a strategy for your business? Do you have a vision, a roadmap for your business so that every single decision can filter through that? And if the answer is no, then you need to reach out because you need to have a vision, a purpose, a map through which every decision is judged. Because otherwise you're going to find yourself constantly chasing the tactics. But tactics without a strategy don't work. And then that's when complacency sets in. If you've ever been on a volunteer group, we tried that 5 years ago. It didn't work. So no. Well, what part of it didn't work? Why didn't it work? What could we do differently? Those are the questions that we need to be asking, especially what can we do differently? My challenge for you this week, if you are feeling like you're not moving forward at the pace you want to be, possibly even feeling that creative, like, ugh, I don't know what to do, put a post in our free Facebook group, the Sticky Sales Scenario Facebook group. I'm going to link it up in the show notes. Come join us over there. Tell us where you're stuck. And if you're really ready to move the needle, then come join us over in the Travel Advisor Success Studio. It's our paid membership where you get to be coached by me for only $27 a month. Trust me, it is the best investment you're going to make in your business at that price point. Until next time, happy selling and time to, as Taylor Swift would say, shake it off.